Howdy, guys, and welcome to night 18 of Big Brother Season 23. And welcome to Cliff Notes from outside the Big Brother house. I hope y'all are having a fantastic weekend. It's certainly been busy inside the Big Brother house. We had the veto competition yesterday, so let's talk about that before we talk about overnight feeds. Just as a quick recap, Xavier is HOH. He had previously nominated Brent and Brittany to go on the block. Tiffany was safe because she won the wild card competition, but she chose not to use it. So theoretically, she was eligible to be on the block, but it didn't matter. Brent and Brittany on the block. And again, we had the veto competition yesterday, and it's a veto competition that we've seen before. Bowl arena, where you spin around holding onto a wheel. Then you have to run over and roll balls up a ramp similar to skee ball. We don't know the specific details, but something along those lines. It sounds like the players were challenging each other each round, picking someone to go up against, something along that matter. Absolutely vital that Brent won this veto competition for his survival. He may not realize that, but everyone else does. Absolutely vital that he wins it. And the winner of the Bowl Arena veto competition wasn't Brent. Christian. Christian won the veto competition. Apparently, Xavier, at one point, it came down to him. I suppose Xavier versus Christian in the end. Xavier apparently threw it, let Christian take home the victory, and pretty certain, almost positive, that Christian will not use the veto, that we will end up with Brittany and Brent on the block, with the plan being to send Brent home. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and talk about overnight feeds, what happened last night. Let's start off by right after the competition, Brent not feeling great. Brent carrying around a bucket with him. He referenced later in the evening that he was amazed that other people hadn't been throwing up all night long, that he was doing a whole lot of throwing up. So not Brent's best evening after that. Just as a little bit of an FYI, we had a spinning competition during my season, and there were a few people, Nick in particular, very nauseous. The only thing that Big Brother would do for us is they gave us some ginger candies that people could take if they're feeling a little nauseous. I guess ginger helps settle your stomach a little bit. But that was it. Otherwise, yeah, you survive until you start feeling better. Brent, again, not feeling so well. Apparently, it's not just the spinning, but it's also the fact that Brent said he kept getting picked by the other players to compete. So he spun a lot more than anyone else did in that competition. Now, here's the thing. I hope Brent picks up on the fact, if you keep getting picked by the other people in a veto competition that's an elimination style event, that's a pretty good sign that everyone else that you're competing with does not want you to win a veto. That should be a pretty clear sign to him that maybe he's not as safe as he thinks he is. I heard at one point during the evening, he still thinks that if he goes up against Brittany, that he probably would beat her 6-5. In fact, he was saying he was really happy that Christian won, that the veto, he's really praying that the veto is not going to be used, because he thinks going against Brittany is his path to survival for another week. Well, Brent may be a little bit surprised. All right. Talk about some other conversations. Brittany, Azza, Derek F. are talking in the bedroom. Brittany is saying that Christian had said he would use the veto on Brittany if her safety was at risk. And so she's going to ask Xavier to let Christian use it on her so that someone else can spend some time on the block. Why would he agree to do that? Surely Brittany understands that's not something that really is something that Xavier would want to do. But Brittany is also saying that Xavier made her look horrible during the nomination speech. Not only does he need to take her off the block, or agree to let her be taken off the block, but he also needs to apologize to her for the nomination speech. Now, we haven't seen that speech yet. It's going to be on the episode probably this evening, I would expect. So we don't know exactly what was said, but Brittany says that he treated her horrible in the speech, and so she's really wanting Xavier to take care of her. Now, Brittany is very upset. She's taking the fact that she's been on the block 2 weeks in a row, she's taking it very personally. I get it. I empathize. I trust me. I empathize getting put on the block over and over again. So I do understand that. But she really needs to change her attitude a little bit. I think, in my personal opinion, she needs to just assume and hope that what everyone is telling her is correct, which is that she is the pawn, that she's not going anywhere. And instead of being so kind of upset and bitter about what's happened, she needs to be focusing on building relationships rather than building animosity based on what's already happened. This is a week that she can work with people and show people that she's not going to hold grudges and that they don't have anything to fear from her and all that. Instead, she's a little upset this week, and we'll talk about that a little bit later in the conversation. Brittany is talking to Azah about this situation as well. Again, she's talking about wanting to talk to Xavier about getting him to let Christian use a veto, talking about how Azah and her could maybe go up and talk to Xavier and make this happen. Azah, though, is saying, look, I get it, and I want to help you, and here's what you need to say and everything, but she is worried, Azah being a little bit worried, that if she pushes Xavier too hard, that it could hurt her game. It could put more of a target on her back. It's not her battle to fight. I agree. Azah needs to kind of just back off, give Brittany as much moral support as she wants, encourage her to go talk to Xavier if she wants, but she needs to kind of stay out of it and let Brittany fight this particular battle. Azah's been taking this a little personal as well, and several people have mentioned that throughout the evening over the past few days, that they feel like Azah's playing a bit too personal of a game. I think Tiffany said that at one point, in fact, that Azah is just feeling like the Team Jokers has been picked on, and she just doesn't like it, and I get it, but again, she needs to just treat it as the game that it is and move on from this point in time. Azah is talking also about how important it was that Whitney or Brent didn't win the competition. Brittany says at that point, the reason Brent didn't win is because I tired him out so much because I picked him, or he and I went against each other, and I tired him out during my round, and that's probably why he didn't win. So she feels like she had something to do with it also. We had a fun little evening, a spa night in the HOH room for Sarah Beth, Alyssa, Christian, Tiffany, Claire, Kylan, Xavier. They took face mask at one point. Kylan and Xavier and Christian all had face mask on, popped up off the bed, looked like something straight out of Dawn of the Dead, went around trying to scare some people. I think Tiffany particularly didn't enjoy looking at them, and so they had a lot of fun with their spa night. It's fun to watch as well. We had some conversations with Team Aces, which is Derek X, Hannah, and Whitney. They're debating about whether to tell Brent beforehand that he doesn't have the votes and that he's going home on Thursday, or should they just let him be blindsided. They eventually have kind of thought, well, maybe we'll tell him 15 minutes beforehand. At one point later, they're going to talk to Xavier and ask him what his thoughts are. Do they tell him? Do they not tell him? They don't want the rest of the house getting upset if they tell him ahead of time and he blows up or something happens. So they're kind of looking for input from other players. But here's my thought. Why blindside Brent and cause him to get upset and feel like he's really been betrayed when it's not necessary? Pull him off to the side before the nominations so that you can tell him the way things are going, so he's prepared. But it gives you the chance to spin the story to make you look as good as possible. Brent then feels better about you because you're the one that spilled the beans. You're the one that helped save him the embarrassment of being blindsided. So he feels better about you. And you got to remember, the house guests don't know that there's not a battle back. For all I know, Brent may be coming back into this house at some point in the future. So you've got to do everything you can to keep yourself on good terms as you send a guy out of the house. And that includes with goodbye messages also. So, yeah, I know as a viewer, we love to see blindsides. As a contestant, I really don't like being blindsided. Didn't like it at all during my season. And I hope they give him a little heads up as well. I think it makes sense strategically, and just as being a nice person, it makes sense in this particular situation. They're also talking about next week's HOH. They're all saying that they'd be perfectly happy to throw the HOH competition to someone from Team Jokers. They were saying, why does someone from the Aces? Why do we need to have it put a target on our back after we pick some people to go on the block? Let's just let Team Jokers have it. Derek F, Azah, Brittany, if any one of them gets HOH, Team Aces feels like they're safe, that those three, any one of them will go after the other side. Certainly if Brittany gets HOH, she's going after, I think, I don't know. I think she would go after Xavier and some other people and make it a little bit personal. Azah probably would too, and create some targets heading that way instead of Team Aces. So they're all ready to throw the competition if they can to Jokers. But Whitney is saying, hey, not only the Jokers, but if it's us and someone from Team Queens that's left, let's throw it to them as well, because I don't think they're going to target us also. And she's mentioning that she really wants Alyssa and Christian of the Kings to go out the door next, that she just is nervous about having them in the house. At that point, Hannah is saying that she doesn't want Alyssa and Jury at all. Now, I don't know if Hannah doesn't want Alyssa and Jury for strategic reasons, for purposes of the vote, or if it's just purely personal reasons, not sure. But Hannah does not want Alyssa sticking around until they get to the jury phase. So we've got those conversations. And again, Whitney really wanting to maybe trust Team Queens in addition to Team Jokers. But Derek X is kind of throwing the wrench in the plans, or throwing the caution out there, saying, look, I don't know. I think the Team Queens and Team Kings are working together. And so you got to be careful about that. Yeah, they're working together. It's called the Royal Flush Alliance. And Derek X happens to be part of that alliance as well. So Derek X knows what he's talking about, and cautioning Whitney just a little bit. We are really seeing more division right now, continuing growth or more division between the Royal Flush, which is Team Queens and Team Kings, and then on the other side, the Jokers and the Aces. It seems like that's kind of where the battle lines are being drawn right now. But right in the middle, you've got, playing for both sides, Derek X. Now, I don't think you can call him a floater. I don't think you can call him a coaster. He's already won 2 veto competitions and all of that. Is he playing a floating game? Well, maybe. Nothing wrong with that. But yeah, Derek X is kind of involved with both groups, which I think puts him in pretty good position. I think he's playing a great game, especially considering how big a target he was in week 1, how close he came to going home with Frenchie's HOH. And now Derek X is playing a good social game. I think he's positioned himself pretty well with all the different groups. Doesn't mean that his name is still getting thrown out occasionally, but I think Derek X playing pretty good game. Brent later comes up to the group and is saying that, hey, the way I played today shows that I'm not a threat in this house, and asking how the team is feeling. And they're all deceiving him. They're all saying, nah, you should be fine. We're all going to work on the votes for you this week, and we should be good. And again, this is where Brent says, I don't want the veto used. I think I can beat Brittany. I think it's probably going to be a 6-5 vote if y'all work with me. And I'm much better off if I'm going up against Brittany as opposed to someone else. Well, Brent's going to learn otherwise, I think. Now, who knows? We're a day away from the veto ceremony, but even more importantly, we're a few days out from the eviction. Things could change. They're not going to change. I think it'll be Brent going home, and he is going to be hurt when he realizes that his own teammates voted against him. But his teammates probably can argue that, hey, the whole rest of the house was going to vote you off. We don't have the votes by ourselves to save you, and we can't alienate ourselves from the rest of the house. So if they do that, plus giving him warning ahead of time, I think he won't feel as betrayed, but he's going to be surprised. He definitely is going to be surprised. We get an extended games playing telephone and Mafia from all, most if not all of the group, playing that for much of the evening. And then we have the backyard open up, which is always huge and a huge relief for everyone. Everyone's excited about that. And sure enough, they all go running outside and spend much of the rest of their time outdoors. Xavier and Whitney having some snuggle time in the hammock. This is interesting. You know, we've got the showmance between Alyssa and Christian, but Xavier and Whitney have been getting very chummy with each other as well. They continue to spend a lot of time together. Later, Whitney is cuddling in bed with Xavier up in the HOH room as well. So keep an eye on those two. In fact, they're talking about at one point, they're saying, yeah, I think Hannah and Derek X are going to be the first showmance. Oh, no, I think the first showmance is Alyssa and Christian. I kind of think the second showmance could be Whitney and Xavier. And then the third showmance, maybe Derek X and Hannah, but we'll see. So, yeah, I think those two are spending a lot of time together. And I don't think it's all to discuss gameplay. In fact, at one point, they have some minor game talk where they're out there in the hammock. But Xavier at one point says, man, I just want to enjoy the night. We got the backyard back. Let's just enjoy the night. So they spend a lot of time with non-game talk as well. Alyssa is complaining to Brent about the fact that people are whispering about her and Christian. Yeah, they're whispering. They're outright talking about the two as well. She knows that people are talking about her and Christian, about how tight they are. and she should be aware, and I think she's aware that could make her a potential target as a result. And yet she's continuing the showmance even at the risk to her game, which I get from an emotional level and all of that. But she's got to be careful because, yeah, people are whispering about it. Brent's telling Alyssa that he really trusts her and he doesn't want to look like a fool. Well, Brent, we'll see what happens. All right, Brent is also Brent was feeling a little nauseous and queasy early in the evening. Apparently, that's gone away because we got Brent back to his old self. Brent talking to Alyssa, he's confused. He says, "I don't get why you flirt with Derek X, but you don't flirt with me." And he also is saying that Whitney picked me to be on her team because she's attracted to me. You know what? Say this about Brent. He is a very confident fellow, right? But sometimes overconfidence can destroy your game when you're playing Big Brother. I'll just leave that at that. We got Clara, Hannah, Derek X talking in the chess room upstairs. Claire wants Brent gone. And she's saying, I want Brent gone, followed by Azah, and then Alyssa or Christian and Christian. Now, Azah's part of this Kingslayer Women's Alliance with Claire, and Alyssa and Christian are part of the Royal Flush, which Claire is also a member on. So I don't know, is Claire saying that she wants those three gone for Hannah's benefit, or is she just not as loyal to those particular alliances as some of the other ones? I'm not sure. But with Azah, Claire does say that Azah is too emotional. She doesn't talk game. She'll be a bitter juror. And I think that Claire is just a very logical player, and Azah's not. Azah said, I play my game the way I play my game. It is what it is. And I think the two of them are just approaching the game differently. So even though they are in an alliance, it may be that they're approaching the game differently. So Claire may be absolutely sincere in not feeling as comfortable with Azah in the house. But to target her and to call her out as a target while you're in an alliance, we'll see what happens. Hannah is responding saying she wants Xavier and Alyssa out before the jury. And I don't know, again, if that's for strategy reasons or it's just if you're in jury, there's some people you want to hang around with, others that you just not soon hang around with. I don't know if it's personal strategic reasons, but Hannah does not want Xavier or Alyssa, either one, in jury. A little surprised that she mentioned Xavier. I feel like Xavier's gotten along pretty well with everyone. But Claire is hoping that the end games are mainly mental. She's saying, man, I'd rather do the mental than the physical competition. So as we get towards the end, I really hope they're all mental competitions. But Hannah's telling her, saying, nah, they're all physical. Look at the last few seasons. Casey, Mickey, Cody, they're physical competitions. Yeah, Hannah's right. That they're physical competitions, as I certainly learned as well. I'm with Claire. I'd love to see more mental competitions at the end, but she better be prepared for a lot of the mental. And when she's thinking about who else she wants to take to the end game with her, she better keep that in mind. All right, Brittany is breaking up Christian and Alyssa when they're hanging out in the hammock. She's asking what kind of speech she should prepare for the veto ceremony. Alyssa, I think, the one says, just surprises. Just so that we don't care. Just surprises. So she said, all right, I'm going to do that. Brittany is going to be working on speeches all week long. She has her task. She is very focused on her speeches. So I'm sure we'll see the speeches, amazing, wonderful speeches on both days because she's going to spend a lot of time on them. All right. Brittany and Tiffany are talking a little bit later. They appear to have made up about the wild card competition. Remember, Tiffany and Derek X were kind of ganging up on Brittany to make sure she didn't win it. Brittany was upset at the time, but now she's saying, look, I'm okay with you winning. Tiffany in turn is saying, look, I assure you were safe this week. If there's some plan to get you out, not only am I not part of it, but I'm actively going against it. You're staying, you're fine, Brittany. And she's doing what she can to make sure Brittany understands. And Brittany's saying, nah, I get it. We're good, Tiffany. Nothing personal. I understand. Sarah Beth and Claire are talking in the backyard. Sarah Beth is pointing out that even though, and it's interesting, she says, look, even though the guys have been winning all of the HOH and veto competitions, it's still the guys that are going home every week. That'll be, if Brent goes home, this will be the third guy in a row who goes home, even though they're winning all the competitions. So yeah, that's interesting. I think the guys haven't been paying as much attention to that in the past. If it keeps happening, I think that'll be a major focus and things may change. But Claire and Sarah Beth are feeling good about their jackpot girls alliance with Tiffany. This isn't a good sign for either gender, I don't think. It's not good for the women in that the guys have been winning a lot of these competitions. Things need to change if the women want to keep control. It's not good for the guys in that they've been winning all the competitions, and yet they still have been talked into or decided to send out the guys so far. If we do have a women's alliance that starts to dominate, it could be major issues for them. And again, we talked about yesterday that Claire has said, let's send home a couple of women who just happen not to be part of the women's alliances, so it doesn't look so obvious. She's playing a great game. I really admire her for that. All right, another conversation. All right, Brittany is crying at this point. Tiffany tried to cheer up. Didn't work so well. Brittany is crying and upset as she talks to Derek F. He did a good job last week with his Frenchie pep talk, and I hope he can keep Brittany from plummeting also. These emotions that Brittany's having, they're understandable, but they aren't going to help her game. And he seems to be doing a good job. He and Azah both are saying, look, you're a good girl. We got you taken care of. You're fine. We haven't won any competitions yet, but when we do, we will make sure we go after the right people. You're perfectly good. Now I'm calling it now. If Brittany wins an HOH competition, she is going to be the most energetic, the most talkative, the most active person that we have seen in that house as an HOH for a long time. It's going to be a very interesting HOH. All right, Claire and Tiffany talking in the Have Not room. A bit of talk about Hannah. They're both suspicious of her. Both saying they need to get closer to Brittany. Lots of guessing about who is on the radar, who would go up with different HOHs in place, just a lot of different scenarios. The main takeaway from the conversation between these two is that they are working closely with each other. They're talking a lot of strategy, opinions, ideas. That tells me that this isn't just fluff. They aren't just saying they're working with each other for the sake of supporting each other. They truly are trusting each other. They truly have each other, the similar objectives. So I think keep an eye on Claire and Tiffany. I think they're going to do a pretty good job in this game if they just continue on. Later, we've got Kylan coming in. They continue the discussion. Kylan is saying, look, we need to make sure that Derek X is part of our group because the Royal Flush has 14 kings, just 3 of us. We need to make sure we got Derek. So we're equal numbers with the kings when it comes to us and them competing against each other. Obviously, assuming the Royal Flush is the main group that makes it past the into the jury phase and such. So he wants to make sure they stay tight with Derek X. And then finally, we've got Christian and Alyssa in the hammock talking strategy. They want to stay with the Royal Flush Alliance. They feel comfortable with that larger group. But within that group, they want to make 3 different Final Four deals with various parts of that alliance. They're saying they already have a Final Four with Sarah Beth and Xavier. I think that's news. It's news to me. I didn't realize, but they say they already have a Final Four with Sarah Beth and Xavier. They also want to create another Final Four with the 2 of them and Tiffany and Claire. And they want to create another Final Four alliance with the 2 of them and Derek X and Kylan. So they want to have a whole lot of little subgroups. So no matter what happens, they're protected. I understand the strategy, but it's a dangerous game we play when you get so many different groups that you are aligned with. People talk. There's no such thing as secrets in the Big Brother house for an extended period of time. And all it's going to take is 1 or 2 of those supposed Final Four groups to start talking to each other and your cover's blown, and then no one trusts you at all. So strategy-wise, I understand it, but they better be careful because it could absolutely come back and bite them. All right, guys, that's it. Hope you have a wonderful rest of a Sunday. I'll be back tomorrow. We'll talk about what happened overnight, and then we'll have the veto ceremony, and we'll know for certain who's going home on Thursday. Until then, guys, y'all have a great rest of the week. SKD 143. Talk to y'all tomorrow. Cheers.